Hi, Ginge.
Hello. Oh, we're so happy to see each other that we're interrupting. I apologize, but hello, Dr. Mary.
It's wonderful to see you, Ginge.
Yeah, we kind of got away from our Dr. Mary and Ginge little uh, pieces that we really liked and we want to do, and but we've been having to do a lot of thinking about what we did and what's going on and how we want to present it. And I think we're there.
I feel, it's always a journey, but we're closer than ever. And I'm so excited about the insights that we're going to provide today.
And I'm so excited that we're back together again.
Absolutely.
Well, if nothing else, we have fun, and I think it shows. I've been learning a lot of things that I'd like us to be able to talk about. One thing that we've been kind of batting around for a while is the communication. You know, how we want to impart our information,
Mm-hmm.
what we want to say, what we want to talk to, what we've garnished as being important, and still abiding by our basic principle that's less
Mm-hmm.
is more.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to share with you a little bit about international wellness. I learned some really, really unbelievable things. And, you know, sometimes we think we have it all together and we know what we're doing and we're just so bright and so springy. And then somebody makes one simple statement and your ego and everything goes, oh my God, where did I
Isn't
come
that
up with?
life? Isn't that
You know,
life?
didn't I come up with that? The main thing that I think that we've come to the conclusion is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And in communicating, you literally have to put yourself in another person's place, even to the minute aspect
Yes,
of what is a definition to them. And
that
this
is
is
so
one of the
true.
things that I really became poignant in the discussion that we're having. It was my first time, so I was kind of like trying to listen to everyone and learn everything and realize I didn't understand anything. But the one thing that came out was the communication.
Yes.
And the Italians, they attribute themselves to everything, you know, all the knowledge and all the cute sayings and whatever. But one that I remember that I heard from my Swiss grandmother was, you got to take your feet out of your own shoes before you can put your feet in their shoes. So you really have to remove yourself, all your mores, all your ideas, conditioning, different things that you were said, so you can really, really empathize. That word empathize is just, we have to learn it. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get any place. And how that came about is that she did a lot of work in African countries where they had cesarean surgeries. And because of the filth, because they didn't have the money, you know, to have the hygienic uh,
Mhm.
properties that they should, they lost 4 women to cesarean in one day. And then she said something to me, now maybe not to you, but to me was profound. She said, we talk about wellness, but she said, I asked them what was wellness to them.
Mhm.
She said, I knew what wellness was to me, and I knew it was to my friends, and I knew it to other people that I knew. But she said that one word came up with just huge amounts of definitions. Like sometimes in the United States, wellness is having their own house. But like where she was, wellness meant survival.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think until we come up with some kind of viable same definition, I'm wondering, Mary, if we're on the right track. I mean, the information that we have is well learned. We do a lot of research. We take pride in being honest, fair-minded. But are we really imparting viable information that people can use in their everyday lives and help them to quote unquote survive?
Mhm.
And we talked about the simple things, you know, like have love in your heart for your children. Take time to say, I love you. Give them rewards. We're such a rapid society that I think we're missing the point, Mary.
I see such problems with, well, as you said, the speed, but also we are so influenced by the screen. by the media. And I don't mean any one media or a channel, but I mean our kids. Okay, they've got the phones on, and you've got to set the boundaries to get those phones off at a reasonable hour. Otherwise, they'd be up all night. And what are they doing? They're internalizing all these photos, all the drama. And so then the question I have is, how does a child develop a core sense of self? Now, the things you're talking about are, be kind to your children, listen to your children. I mean, it all has to do with a deep, abiding respect for oneself and others. And I think if we can look at the perils of the society we live in, it makes sense. It's like, wow, we got to combat that. We got to combat this. And I mean, adults are busy scurrying around, we're
Trying
filling
to
out
survive.
paperwork, trying to survive. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think these fundamental, as you've said many times, back to basics is more important than ever.
Well, less is more. Well, it's just like, when we lived on a ranch, I know people say, oh, there she goes again, about before and after and whatever. But there are some aspects of when we were being brought up that we didn't realize at the time, but were so fundamentally
Exactly.
correct and made us feel so cool,
Mm-hmm.
so self valued.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
and we had structure.
Yes.
I mean, can you see your parents giving you a phone at 10 years of age? I couldn't touch our phone.
Ginge, we had to ask permission to use the house phone. And the house phone was in the kitchen with a long cord, but you didn't talk privately. You asked permission and you had a few minutes to talk.
And whether we realized it or not, we found that comfortable because then we started talking to our parents because when we were at dinner, we had to talk. We had to
Exactly.
say, what is your day? And I thought I always admired my parents for that because they were farmers. And
Mm-hmm.
dad would come in when mom had dinner. We would all sit and we would talk. And then dad would go out and he would farm until it got dark.
That's right.
But then we had chores too. There were things that were expected to us.
That's
And
right.
we had to earn if we wanted someone to come overnight. That meant, we had to earn. I know it's hysterical, but we had to earn the money it took for the gas to go into town to go and get the friend.
That's right.
And we did that by
Exactly.
hoeing weeds or feeding the rabbits. But we were fortunate too, because especially with my spirit, being out on acreage that didn't have any houses around was to my parents' advantage. But we keep on skirting around a very simple premise. We have to be kind to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Just basically be kind. It's just like we weren't allowed to yell. If we could not get our point across without yelling, then the point wasn't gotten across.
That's interesting.
But we were given time. It's just like I don't know how many people had this in their house, but we used to have for the big dinners. Okay, you by your age, what table you got to sit in. And I thought it was crazy because, I worked so hard, to get to the big table. And I got to the big table and then I asked to go to the small table because it was more fun. So there were many restrictions. But there was order. Everybody knew what they were supposed to do. Not that they did it, as
Right.
unreluctantly as they should, but you knew what was expected of you. You
Exactly.
knew what you were supposed to do, but
Exactly.
you were also allowed choices. Like if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But this is what's going to take place.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to see your favorite TV program. Now, with my
Oh,
village
that's a
mind,
given. That's a given.
yeah, I used to call it incarceration. I was such a little twit anyway. but my mom and dad stuck to it. And I remember one night I was the beds in the farmhouse, they're paper thin, the walls. And I remember one night my dad saying to my mom, Ollie, if we don't stick together with this one, we're going to lose it. So if I say something, you agree with me, then we'll talk about it later. But if you don't agree with me and I don't agree with you, hands down, she's got us.
That's right.
So, and when they did that, and a lot of children, the children are bright now. They're very, not that we weren't bright, but they're much more sophisticated, like you say, with computers and with social media and with all the other things. So we decided we're not going to make these that long. So we wanted to introduce the fact that we're going back to basics. Less is more. Straightforward, essential, and asking more questions, having more people to participate. What do you think of that? What did you do when you were younger? How did your folks resolve a conflict? Because I remember one time we had the one car and I wanted to go to a tennis match and my brother wanted to go to a basketball practice. How was that resolved? First time I hitchhiked and I got grounded, so it was really bad.
But I will tell you, can you imagine if more of us engaged in these types of conversations on a regular basis?
But
Asking.
it's nothing, you come home, you say, look, I've had a really rough day. I don't want to take it out on you. I know you're really excited to tell me, but if you could just, if we can just come to an understanding, give me 10 minutes, just
Right.
10 minutes. And then we'll address 5 minutes. I'm sorry, it can't be more, but we'll address 5 minutes, but you will have my undivided attention.
Right.
And then we have chores. We have house chores we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if everybody knows what they're supposed to do, now once a week, if you don't like the chore you were assigned or you don't like what took place during the family, that is when we sit down and we take, during dinner with the television off, discuss it.
That's right.
So then everybody knows that there's a time that they're going to be heard. And there are going to be subject matters that we're not going to like. And one of them is it's going to affect us because we're not going to like it. And there's going to be less social media time. Because mom and dad and the caretakers have a tendency to put in a lot more hours than they think they do. And I think it's all in a way, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not, an expert in it, but I think it's a way for all of us to deny, to not deal with what we have to deal with because we've already decided that we can't do anything about it.
Oh, I agree with you. It is very easy to get lost in the screen, lost in the videos, lost in the post, the scrolling. Very easy.
And the streaming thing, before you know it, you're sitting there 5 hours, which is ridiculous. That those 5 hours you could be doing a lot of other things. And now, as you and I know, as we're growing, as we're taking on more responsibilities, we have to be very, very, very careful about the time. And that's why we're saying, Mary, you and I, we've kind of, we instill each other and stimulate each other and we have fun. But we discussed this just recently. Within the next 3 minutes, we have to be done. Because then that's too long. So we have to become more concise in our verbiage. We have to get more organized. And so this is new to us. So we're asking for your patience. We're asking for your input. And we're asking you to listen to what we're saying. We know we've come a long ways. We know now, that we used to be here for the children. And now we're into families. And now we're into communities. And now we're in the world. Just simple thing as our little character diabetes type program is in 5 African countries. But it's very difficult to get them to understand that our whimsical characters are going to give them benefit. So, we've assigned ourselves our duties, and sometimes we do it pretty good, and sometimes we don't do it well. We don't do it very well. So
But we practice.
We
practice and we improve. And as we share, there's a lot of little pearls here. I would encourage our listeners to listen. This is a brief video, but listen again and internalize it. Practice. There's a lot of little pearls here. And I'll be honest with you, Jen. See, the more efficient we get, the more productive we get, the more time we have to dedicate to ourselves in a meaningful way. Okay. We create time to meditate, reflect, pray, communicate more with our children. We have that time, but we're very efficient with what we do. And the world does not instill that, okay? It's just, it bombards you. And I'll be honest with you.
Well, we're so bombarded that we get misdirected.
Exactly.
I'll give you something. My friend is having a problem with a relationship. And I before I figure it's none of my business, so, okay, I'll listen. But I listened this time. And I was surprised how obvious the problem was.
Wow.
They both mistrust. So therefore, it's always combative.
That's right.
So I said, why don't you do a timeout like we do with the kids? You're allowed 10 minutes. And you can't say anything nasty.
Right.
Or go on a date night. Or take a couple of days away from each other. Make it simple. But don't allow it to get so exacerbated that you're going to throw away something that you want.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing. We're throwing away, literally, we're throwing away our children.
Without realizing it. It's true.
Okay, so now we have to decide. Mary and I are working on 5 or 6 different subject matters. We're going to invite Bella back, Bella Italiano, and we're going to invite some of our other characters just to get your attention. And they won't be over, we're trying really hard not to be over 10 minutes. Some of them we want only to be 5. Some of them are just 2. Just some of them might come on and say, Mary, what did you do for yourself today? Or, Ginge, did you help someone today? And then, like you say, my grandmother always said, when it came to money anyway, she said, pay yourself first. No matter if you have $1, you give yourself 20 cents, you put it away. You pay yourself first. And I think that's in essence, that's kind of what we're saying and what we're trying to impart. Pay yourself first. Do you have the respect to go to your child and say, look, I can't talk to you right now. I had such a day. I had people yelling at me. And now, you know what? I kind of understand how you feel when we yell at you.
That's right.
Very basic, very simple, said. Done. Oh, you have people yelling at you too?
Exactly.
So they can see that, you're struggling too. And then when you get to that point, you can say, what do you think I should do? Should I just sit there and listen to it? Or should I yell back? Or should I leave the room? Or what do you think I should do? What do you do? That is so, how long did that take, Mary?
Exactly. No time at all.
And
but it has to do with
how did that make you feel? And the thing that we
so validated. It's like, oh my God, like they cared about my opinion.
And they
also cared.
One of the things that I think is the biggest liability in multimedia is it makes you feel isolated. Even though you're talking to people, even though you have the same problems, there's no real solutions. And when you don't have a
No.
solution or you don't see that there's a way
Mhm.
out, you feel very lonely.
Mhm.
And when you're that
Exactly.
age and you
That's
feel
right.
lonely, you don't have the tools to deal with it.
Mhm.
I mean, it's shameful.
That's
It's
right.
shameful that so many children are taking
That's
their own
exactly right.
lives when there's so many
It
people
is.
around them. I never quite understood for a
It's an
long time,
it's
you
beyond
can be,
tragic. It is.
you can be, you can have a lot of people around you, but you can be lonely. There's a difference between being lone and alone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being lonely and alone, the difference. And I didn't
Right.
realize it
Right.
until I experienced it myself. But
Mm-hmm.
we want to instill joy and purpose and
Right.
get these kids past this really, really ugly stage in their life, which goes on to more depression and and more mental illness when they're older.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But Ginge, it all has to do with a lack of respect for oneself. And if the world, if the loved ones around the child are not demonstrating deep, abiding respect, what does the child have? Okay, the early years are, it's like a reservoir, and the child takes all this in to build. They used to talk it, this is many decades ago, the ego strength. And I don't mean a big ego, I mean like the reservoir in the psyche, that you believe, you have a deep, abiding belief in yourself. And then you can step out and say, what is my role in the world? Okay, but without those building blocks, you do not have it. And I guess
And
that's
they come in different ways and in different cultures, like in some cultures, you have to work in the field with the families. Another culture, um, you have to help with the household and the duties. It depends. And then I don't know. I come from the Italian culture, and there was a lot of laughing, but there was a lot of controlling too. But at least there were times that we got to make our own decisions, except if you were the girl, then no decisions. So you got to do all the work. But but there was also laughter and worth, and
mm-hmm,
you knew what you were supposed to do. And
mm-hmm,
there was always like acknowledgement for the
that's
Nino. There
right.
was always,
That's
but
exactly right.
you always listened to your grandmother.
Oh, without question.
So, but we had those, it's just like when we started drinking wine, we had more water than wine. And as we got older, we got more wine. And I liken that to, becoming an adult. When you're younger, you don't have as much influence. And as you grow, as you learn, as you tolerate, as you,
Mhm.
can appreciate the wine more without misusing it, then you got more wine.
Yeah, but that's a very delicate balance. And we live in a society of indulgences, okay? But there's no emphasis on discipline, okay? You have that glass of wine, you have a few sips and you put it down, okay? It's a world of indulgences to the detriment of building character.
Being
And you can watch.
responsible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but anyway, this is what we're going to be trying to do, and we're going to be doing it in series. And we put a lot of thought into this. We would appreciate, any comments. The biggest thing here is the time. But if you, I mean, take the time that when you praise a child or someone says something to a child that they really appreciate. Remember, I mentioned it more than once when that little boy was in the grocery store, and oh my God, he had a cowboy hat on and a tutu and a half a dress and a Scottish. I mean, he put everything on, and his mother was kind of, looking around and explaining to people that it was, he liked to do it every once in a while, and she was finding excuses for him. And then I went up to him and I said, boy, I said, wow, look at all the different people you are today. Did you figure that all out to yourself? Or I bet somebody helped you. And his grin was like, no, I did it myself. And then he looked at his mother's as to say, see, Mom, she gets it. You know, just simple little, and I think even now today, I bet if you tried and not that hard, somebody said something to you a long, long time ago that even to this day, when you remember it, you smile and it fills you with joy.
That's right.
A look, you know, or the first time that you got a prize in school. I'm still working on that.
These are all worthwhile
And
things
they
to
don't
think
take very
about.
much time. And that's the
No.
only thing that we don't have. It's our most precious gift is our time. And simple little things. I have my godchildren, they're getting older now, but when they were younger, they'd come over to the house and we would just sit there. And it was amazing that they would discipline and sanction themselves. Like I said, okay, we got 15 minutes each of you that you have my undivided attention. We can talk about anything you want, and the others can't interrupt. Well, it didn't sit too well at first, but then after a while, I said, his 15 minutes aren't up. Because if he doesn't get his 15 minutes, I don't get my 15 minutes. They figured it all out.
Exactly.
And so then finally I said to them, I said, where's my 15 minutes?
That's right.
And then they were stumped. Well, what do you mean, where's your 15 minutes? Well, whose lap do I get to sit on? Who do I get to talk to for 15? And they came up with the idea that they would forfeit one of their 15 minutes. So I got 5 minutes each with them to talk about what I wanted to. And they did that all on their own. There was no encouraging. These are the parameters, this is the structure, and then consistent. You have to be consistent. And notice things. My, that's a pretty bow. Did you do it yourself? No, Mama did it. You going to try to do it yourself? I don't know if she'll let me. But you ask her. Done. Conversation done. No big deal. No, we don't know how long we're here. And we get lessons that we're supposed to learn. Mary and I get we excite each other and then we're off onto some other tangents and we want to make sure that you're understanding exactly what we're trying to say. Like we went over the fact, you know, if you don't take off your own shoes, you can't put your feet in somebody else's shoes. And one word, like the word that we chose was wellness, has so many different definitions. But first and foremost, we have to understand that what we think, how we feel, is not what is understood or what is felt. So I think with that, I think that's a sufficient amount of pondering that we should close. And we are very, very excited about this new venture, and we want you to be too. But we need your input. If you don't talk to us, like we said, you've got to communicate. And when you have someone's trust, then it's easier to be vulnerable. And then you're really going to be talking to each other, not at each other. So let's start learning to talk to each other.
That's awesome. All right, Ginge, thank you so much for your wisdom, insights, and you have a great day.
And you too. And I'm very, very pleased, Mary, that we were persistent in doing this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, then. And to our audience, you have an incredible day and we will see you soon.
Don't forget to take time to come along on our ride. We have fun. Bye-bye.